Alright, so I first we have to look. Alright, so this video kind of like this just ties to all the fuckery. So like as I was just looking up random stuff, it just started leading, cause that's how the rabbit hole is. Like you find something, then you find something else, and then you be hoping that you're fucking wrong the whole time. Cause you be seeing it's a little exciting at first, but then you be like, oh no, you might start crying and all types of shit. Then niggas like, what the fuck you crying about? You be like, bro, try to explain it to them. They just sit there in the daze, cause it's too much to process at the moment. But as long as you planting the seed, that's all that matters. So if you got some truth, speak your truth, right? Really, just go with your intuition, go with the spirit. Let it lead you in the right direction. Because when you seek, you shall find. So look, that being said, they got some shit called Xenobots and everything. But shout out to one of the chiefs, right? Put me on to something because it's like you be having feelings for things and you could clearly see what's going on. But sometimes you need to find words for it. Especially sometimes in the cosmos when you're a chosen one. Sometimes you just have the heart that's needed to fill the shoes, right? The purity and the blood. So, that being said, shit may be random for you, but the only thing is, you have to know thyself. Cause, yeah, shit get real. But look, one of the chiefs put out some, and it's called a class action code, US code 19242 or 240 through 18 United States Code 242. But look, that shit ties down to something that was being done in the 70s to the 80s, 1970s to the 80s, and that deals with the Compassionate Investigational New Drug Program, right? I need to pull this back up because I was trying to make this shit shell. I was kind of tired at the same time. I really wasn't tired. It's just when I get sleepy, that means there's some work to do in the cosmos. Because other than that, I'm not a tired person or a lazy person. If anything, I just be smacked. But look, Compassionate Investigational New Drug Program. I did read this before, but hopefully I can find the one I'm reading. See nothing highlighted. Let's just type this. Alright, so expanded access, sometimes called compassionate use, is the use of investigational new drug products outside the clinical trials to treat patients with serious or immediately life-threatening diseases. Okay. It is the use of investigational new drug products outside of clinical trials to treat patients with serious or immediately life-threatening diseases or conditions where there are no comparable satisfactory alternative treatment options. The rules and regulations related expanded. We're not going to keep doing all of that. Patients have serious, blah, blah, blah. That's what it's for. Like all their research for medicine is, right? That shit crazy. Let me see if it's on my phone real quick, cause that's what I was reading it off actually. Reading off my phone. Hold on. Alright, so boom. You feel me? Alright, so look, found it. So it was actually called expanded access or compassionate use, right? So expanded access or compassionate use is the use of an unapproved drug or medical device under special forms of investigational new drug applications, IND or IDE applications for devices outside of clinical trials by people with serious or life-threatening conditions who do not meet enrollment criteria for clinical trials in progress. So that's like we was talking about in the last video, Omicron, uh, Zeta, um, Zetia, and Xenobot, and how Xeno is parallel to Omni or Omi, and because Xeno is parallel to Omi because Omi means Ayan, but Ayan is the suffix of Zayan, and number wise, it's the beginning of it's the beginning phase of before it even got to Omicron, right? Dealing with the alphabet. Because the alphabet, yeah, is kind of like the alignment of stars and stuff, but it actually is the 369, or the 3693, because that it is 4 levels. That's what the 12 comes from, the rebirth, which is 3. So look, that being said, just peep what I'm saying. The use of an unapproved drug or medical device under special forms of investigational new drugs, IND or IDE application for devices. Peep how they say drugs or devices, because they have to sedate you even for that device, right? This is why they study on biology, pathology, and chemistry, which becomes biochemistry, dealing with the bioweapon. Peep game. The program goes under various names including early access, special access, or managed access programs, compassionate use, compassionate access, named patient access, temporary for patient is for like patent access, temporary authorization for use, cohort access, and pre-approval access. In general, the person and their doctor must apply for access to the investigational products. The company has to choose to cooperate, and the medicines which they choose when they do contracts, right? And the medicines agency needs to agree that the risks and the possible benefits of the drug or device are understood well enough to be determined if putting the person at risk sufficient potential benefit, which is the written agreement. In some countries, the government will pay for the drug or device, which you do through your taxes. But in many countries, the person may pay for the drug or the device, which you still pay for with your taxes. The reason why inflation never happened is because of taxes. It's just like uh, stores or like drug dealers or something. Like get different types of shit, different prices. For a whole time, that nigga could be getting for the same price and just changing up. Feel me? But look though, it's called taxing, right? Well, that's just business, period. That deals with Delta, right? Because everything right now is dealing with the sun. So to understand Delta or the pyramids, right, you have to understand the 369 energy, which is the divine energy cycle, right? It's the cycle of the universe, right? So to even understand that, you have to understand why they're using this word, because they use symbolisms, right? Words are symbolisms. I mean, words are nouns, actions, and symbolism, right? Yeah, holds energy. But look, the delta, first of all, means denoting a new energy cycle. Well, B117 meant new energy cycle. Delta is the fourth letter of the Greek alphabet, which is the triangle, and the symbol that I'm about to show you pretty soon. If you know the delta symbol, it's the other symbol other than triangle, which represents the atom. I mean the DNA, which is tied to your atoms at the end of the day. Uh, it's just the more they replicate, they clone itself and restrain itself into a code, right? So look, delta is transliterated as D, most likely capital D. So when you see a capital D within science as abbreviation, medicine, and pathology, Greek, Hebrew, Latin, dealing with English, and uh, dealing with the higher ups that's giving names. Cause I don't know about y'all, but when I was taught in school and they gave you a name, or when you give a name to something, you're supposed to give it meaning. And if the meaning is coming from the definitions that we were taught, first of all, in different origins, then that's the way you're supposed to comprehend it. If not, then that just goes back to y'all just telling us another lie. So I'm gonna just use, I know that uh, the fallen ones was my kind. And then I know bloodline that ties to Draconian, and people keep saying dragon. I mean, G is a C, so it stands for Dracone, which is short for Draconian. That's another story. Um, there's two bloodlines to that. And that's another story though. But that's another reason. Um, look, I was saying Delta with business, right? Because there's actually the because when it comes to business, it's called the ratio of the change in price of an option to the change in the price of the underlying asset. So while all this shit is going on dealing with the sun, which has always been going on, it's a loop, it's a cycle. It's really like every 9 years, then it repeats. That's one cycle. Then you have your month cycle. Then you have your time cycle. But this is all of the cycles I just said deals with time, because time is measurement of energy. It's not really you be like it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, oh it's the next day. No, it's really the same day, different cycles, right? And the only reason it's night is because of the land that sunk in the ground, dealing with the energies attached to the backside of the sun. Because it's like 8 alternates. There's really 4 alternates and 2 parallels. So that makes 8. So it's really like 8 plus 1 energies, which really gonna come out to 12 plus 1 energies that deals with just that one light created right by itself, right? This is 2 parallels, 3 alternates, and 4 states, everything. So the thing is, the 19 energies that deals with one sun. That's another subject. Let's get back to this class action, because the thing is, they've been scientifically experimenting on shit. They've been, this has been a whole experiment this whole time to see if you're negative, what happens in a negative variant, a positive variant, and when nothing happens at all. But they already know uh, that's their hypothesis, and then they have a conclusion of what to do next, because it's all about depopulation, so they can continue to do what they do. Thing is, they trying to see how we interact. Well, they know how we interact with the sun, but they know their time. So they're trying to see something about the Gara particle, which deals with neuromelanin, which is pretty much carbon, and which is at a higher interval. It's probably like at its fourth state. And I hate to say fourth state because it could definitely go higher, but I think when you use that type of wording, it's different, because it's like the fourth level or the 12th, or like the 12th, feel me? Or the 3 at the same time, using the fourth level, because it's 3, 6, 9, 12. It's 3, 6, 9, 3. So like, anyways, so Now that you know that delta, okay, delta means the UV2, means radio communications. It means the pyramid. It means denote a change in energy levels. Arrows indicate the direction it proceeds in. So when you look at lasso, that's what it's talking about. Um, and then they have something to deal with hedging, which deals with employ to offset losses to investments by taking an opposite position in related assets. The reduction in risk provides by hedging also typically results in reduction in potential profits. Hedging strategies typically involve derivatives such as future contracts. Alright. Delta also means planes. I'm only saying that for a reason because you have to see the wording they use. Because I think I found somebody which leads to the investors. But even that got me back to the investigational ended up with cannabis being tied to investors like P. Diddy and shit like that, which was kind of weird. So, that being said, I think that's on video on YouTube. So, we're just gonna keep going with this. Because one day, y'all niggas, this shit's gonna blow up. But, anyways, look. Alright, the class action 9, US Code 19242. So, let's get back on subject. This is for documentation purposes only. Alright, so look. Expanded access or compassionate use is the use of an unapproved drug or medical device under the special forms of investigation of new drug applications. In general, the person and their doctor must apply for the access to the investigational product. The company has to choose to cooperate, choosing which area, different regions and different hospitals, which also ties to the nonprofit organization is attached to, which is also attached to the church, which also is another nonprofit. And the medicines agency needs to agree that the risk and the possible benefits of the drug or device, key word drug or device, those two words, drug, device, are understood well enough to determine if putting the risk at has a sufficient potential benefit, which is the written agreement you have to sign, right? Like you do for anything when you pick up these drugs that that is that is backwards, right? Because they're the ones distributing all of these drugs. Then is the key parts to the drug. So they're pretty much right now distributing fentanyl. And fentanyl got here the same way cocaine got here. Cocaine got here by the government cooperating with the Mexican company or the Latin company, which ties to the Latin company in Colombia, right? Because that's where you get your purity from more, but you can still get it in Mexico. It's just different climates to it, so you get different potencies. Therefore, that's being tied to Latin America or Spain. So UK, US, or North America, which is the same as Spain or France or whatever. That's the Spaniards were going to South America. Same people, right? That's why they're cooperating, doing the same shit. And then that goes on to the Eastern Empire with the Greeks and the Romans, right? Because in the Hebrews, right? Just look at the areas that they're claiming that shit. India, Russia, but then you have to add China because China low-key is part of America and is low-key next to Eurasia. So that being said, that's why we get split energies from 77 degrees and 144 degrees, dealing with 144 east, 0 north, or it might be 144 north, 0 east, right? Because the sacred numbers, when you look at them like that, it's either the first way or the opposite, but you always have to have 0 north or east with the sacred number, and it pops up the location of where the CME hits, right? So 77 would be like the Indian Sea, or close to China in a way, and then 144 would be like the Pacific, which is China. That's why China gets a lot of things into America fast and at a high volume. But look, in some countries, the government will pay for the drug or the device. This when it comes to the world order, because this ties into that too. It ties into colonization too. It's the same procedure. Abraham Lincoln never freed the slaves. So this is when it comes to compassion investigation, right? Because he never freed the slaves. He just never signed the world order. So what he did was allow the slaves to execute their rights, right? If it was him, it was somebody, but that was already allowed. It's just the slaves wasn't fighting for their rights; they were fighting for other foreigners, right? Because most of the time, in my eyes, and now I'm starting to see, I don't think it was just because of other foreigners, but we were fighting for and against our people on the other side, to the point of being under a spell or confused with fighting our own people. But that was part of the takeover, and that's pretty much what's going on right now spiritually. But people are starting to wake back up, and this will just go back to world war, because all they're trying to do is bring back they're trying to bring back illnesses, which is all sexual transmitted disease. So when you look at an illness, it's just an STD at the end of the day. Even if you weren't having sex, you could not be having sex and it will still be the same as STD, pretty much. That's why they were talking about using the same thing to help that, just so they can give you that, because it was never was never that it was uncurable. It was the, the, the medicine. The medicine actually causes the problem and gives you this ease within you. It always came from the clouds. But I mean, if you're also doing stuff that's outside of a normal cycle, especially dealing with reproduction, then that can happen too. At the end of the day, like HIV deals with immuno, an immune deficiency. And if you have an immune deficiency, that means that you're dealing with pathological blood destruction, which deals with your red blood cells, right? And your red blood cells are supposed to reproduce itself under the sun, right? Because that's how you grow. If there was no sun, you wouldn't grow, right? Period. Nothing would. It's part of a cycle, right? So, that being said, you wouldn't grow properly without it. So that means it's part of your cycle. And the cycle of the universe or the sun is 3693. Reason why they made the months 12 hours for a day, 12 hours for night. So it deals with a cycle. 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12. Repeat. Feel me? Um, it's all cycles within the cycle and cycles outside of the cycle. But look, so everybody's paying for the drug or the device through taxes, through these non-profit organizations, which is also attached to the bank. Your social, your identification of you, right? It's tied to all of that. So yeah, you're paying for the taxes. In some countries, the government will pay for the drug or device. The government's not paying for it, you're paying for it. But in many countries, the person may pay for the drug or device as well as medical services necessary to receive it. Again, you're paying for it. In the U.S., compassionate use started with the provision of investigational medicine to a certain patient in the late 1970s, right? So really, this study started, in my eyes, was been going on, but they really tie back down to it again. Right. I think a pandemic like this happened 1777. And like Siri said, 1778 was 2021 or 2022. Some shit. But 1777, they were going through the same shit. They made a Netflix series about it called La Revolution. It shows a lot of shit that may happen. So that being said, let's keep reading. I'm getting off track. Alright, provisions in investigation of medicine to certain patients in the 1970s. And a formal program was established. A formal a formal program was established in the 1987 in response to HIV/AIDS. Patients requesting access to drugs in development. And importantly, legal case was Abigail Alliance versus Von Escabach, in which the Abigail Alliance, a group that advocates for access to investigational drugs for people who are terminally ill, COVID. But where was it coming from? The clouds, the air, and the food, the water. Um, and the frequencies from the electrical grid, right? Because when your cells are being pretty much manipulated, then when it hits frequencies, when the frequencies of the sun hits it, it makes a negative effect. And there's a list of what the frequencies do in a negative effect. I hope I can find it. So I found it once and I never found it again. But yeah. So so the Abigail Alliance is a group that advocates for access to investigational drugs for people who are terminally ill. Tried to establish such access as a legal right. The Supreme Court declined to hear the case, effectively upholding previous cases that have maintained that there is not a constitutional right. There is not a constitutional right. There is not a constitutional right to unapproved medical products. As in 2016, regulations of access to pharmaceuticals that were not approved for marketing was handled on a country-by-country basis, including the European Union, where the European Medicines Agency issued guidelines for national regulatory agencies to follow. This is talking about the world, right? But peep game, UK took their self away from the European medicines or the European Union. Just look in the U.S., Europe, and the UE. No company could compel to provide a drug or device that was developing. Companies sometimes provide drugs under these programs to people who were in clinical trials. Clinical trials. People who get paid to try this, that, and the third. You feel me? Like they've been testing people this whole time on certain shit. That's like weed. You see tobacco or cigarettes, right? That's legal to smoke, but weed isn't legal to smoke because weed is actually a cellular. It is weed is for your cells, or cannabis is for your cells. Coming from Canis Major, it works like the sun. Feel me? It helps reproduce your cells. Well, at least it's supposed to, but it's for it's made for light body beings, pretty much. So like if your physical and your mental's not right under the light or under the sun, meaning your body walking around all day because literally you're under the sun 24 hours. The moon is the sun. It's just dimmed out because the lands that were attached to it sunken underground, which deals with AL little o, hold on, little o big O and N, right? Which spells almond, which ties, which means pretty much the tree of life, right? So that being said, the tree of life is within you because you're pretty much a sun in a humanoid body, or in a body, pretty much, meaning that the cycle of the sun is the cycle of you being, if you're indigenous. And that's saying because what heals you kills other beings that's on this planet, and that's what they're trying to block out with the sun. And as they're trying to block that out, it makes you sick. So when they passed the law for propaganda, which is pretty much advertisements and commercials and news, right? Because the spell of that is once you harness a lot of energy, you can just go off of that. That's like gossiping at a school. Once someone starts gossiping, everyone believes it, even if it's true or if it's not. So propaganda is another word for gossip, lies, or spreading rumors and lies. Because when you do that, you can put people in fear, or yeah, put you in fear. So when people in fear, because it seems a little more different than what they're used to, and they present a resolution, yeah, but I remember they were unsure of what they were doing, right? I'm just trying to point out examples so it don't seem like I'm just reading some shit. Like, like most of the shit they talk about, they be somewhat sure, but they always been wrong. But just listen to what I'm saying. Why does this bitch keep saying technology? Huh? I thought it was a vaccine. Just peep how she keeps saying technology. Because she's not saying the technology that was used to find a vaccine. She's saying the fucking technology. I never heard this before. Like, what should she do? Right? Technology, right? So, dealing with, think a doctor. Yeah, this is a doctor or nurse, right? We're gonna restart this video. We're not gonna
we started, but we're gonna make a part two. And yeah.